Hey everyone, and welcome to this deep dive.
Effort from leadership to model these values, set the tone, and make it clear that bullying in any form will not be tolerated.
It's interesting because you mentioned earlier how Maria confided in Priya, and that sense of trust and safety seems crucial in a situation like this. It reminds me of how sometimes people hesitate to report bullying because they're afraid of not being believed, or even worse, being labeled as a troublemaker. So what would you say to someone who is struggling with that fear?
Well, that's a valid concern. Unfortunately, victim blaming is still a reality, and it can discourage people from coming forward. That's why fostering a culture of open communication is so important.
So it's about creating a space where people feel safe to share their experiences without fear of judgment or negative consequences.
Precisely. Leadership needs to actively encourage reporting and demonstrate that they take these matters seriously. They need to create a culture where vulnerability is seen as a strength, not a weakness.
It's starting to make sense how company culture and individual actions are kind of intertwined. It's not just about one person's behavior, but the whole environment that either allows it to thrive or nips it in the bud. So what about personal responsibility? What role do you think individuals play in building a respectful workplace?
Well, everyone has a role to play. While it's not an individual's responsibility to fix a toxic culture, they can contribute to a more positive environment.
How so? What are some things individuals can do?
It can be as simple as modeling respectful behavior, speaking up when they witness something inappropriate, or offering support to a colleague who might be struggling. Small actions can have a ripple effect.
So it's not just about being a passive bystander, but actively contributing to a more positive workplace. So what happened when Maria took that brave step and escalated the issue to HR? Did they take her seriously?
Thankfully, yes. In Maria's case, HR took her concerns seriously and conducted a thorough investigation, which included interviewing other team members.
And remember, Priya, Maria's supportive colleague, well, she played a vital role here too.
That's right. Priya corroborated Maria's claims, which provided valuable evidence of a pattern of behavior. And this just reinforces why having a support network is so important. Not only does it provide emotional support, but it can also strengthen your case when seeking resolution through these official channels.
It sounds like Maria did everything right. She documented the incidents, she tried to address the issue directly and sought support from a colleague, and then when things didn't improve, she escalated it to HR. It's inspiring to see her taking such proactive steps. So what was the outcome of the HR investigation?
The results were positive. Kevin was reassigned to a different project, which was a huge relief for Maria.
Wow, that must have felt like a huge weight lifted off her shoulders. Did the company take any further action beyond just reassigning Kevin?
Yes, they did. They also implemented conflict resolution training for the entire team, which was a proactive step towards preventing similar situations in the future. And they specifically encouraged Maria to provide ongoing feedback, which demonstrated their commitment to ensuring a safe and supportive work environment for her.
So it wasn't just about dealing with the immediate problem, but also creating a more positive work environment for everyone. It's encouraging to see a company taking those steps.
Absolutely. Maria's story highlights how taking action, even when it's incredibly difficult, can lead to positive change, both for yourself and for the organization. She turned a negative experience into an opportunity for growth and improvement.
But what about situations where HR doesn't respond effectively? What advice would you give to someone who's facing a similar situation but doesn't have a supportive HR department?
That's a crucial question. Unfortunately, not all organizations have robust systems in place to address workplace bullying. In these cases, it's important to remember that you still have options.
Like what? What are some alternatives if going through official channels isn't feasible or safe?
Sometimes seeking external support can be helpful. This might involve reaching out to a labor rights organization, a legal professional specializing in workplace issues, or even exploring mediation services. The key is to know that you're not alone and there are resources available to guide you.
It's so important to remember that you have rights and that there are people who can help you navigate these challenging situations. What about the emotional toll of bullying? It's not just about policies and procedures. It's about the impact on a person's well-being. How can individuals protect themselves and maintain their mental health while facing these challenges?
You're right, the emotional impact of bullying can be significant and long-lasting. It's crucial to prioritize your well-being.
That sounds like a perfect segue into part 3, where we'll focus on individual strategies for building resilience and maintaining your well-being in the face of workplace bullying. Don't go anywhere. We're back for the final part of our deep dive into navigating workplace bullying. We've covered a lot of ground already. The dynamics of bullying, the impact of company culture, the importance of taking action. But now I want to shift gears and really talk about you.
Yeah, let's focus on what you, the listener, can do to safeguard your well-being and build resilience, especially if you're facing a similar situation to Maria.
Because dealing with a workplace bully is incredibly draining. It can chip away at your confidence, make you question your abilities, and just leave you feeling isolated and powerless.
Absolutely. The psychological impact of bullying is often overlooked, but it's profound. It can lead to stress, anxiety, sleeplessness, even physical health issues.
So knowing all of that, what are some things people can do to protect themselves and maintain their mental and emotional well-being in these difficult situations?
Well, one of the most crucial things is to remember your inherent worth. Bullying thrives on making the target feel small and insignificant, but you have to remind yourself that you are valuable, you're capable, and you deserve respect.
That's such a good point. It's so easy to internalize those negative messages and start doubting yourself. So how do you actually hold on to that sense of self-worth in the face of all that negativity?
It might involve actively challenging those negative thoughts. So if you catch yourself thinking, I'm not good enough, or it's all my fault, stop and reframe those thoughts. Remind yourself of your accomplishments, your strength, the positive feedback you've received from others.
It's like building an internal shield against those toxic messages.
Exactly.
What else can you do to regain a sense of control? Because it often feels like bullying takes away your power.
You're right. Another important strategy is to focus on what you can control. You can't control someone else's behavior, but you can control your reactions and how you choose to respond.
It's about taking back your power even in small ways.
Precisely. And that might involve setting boundaries, practicing assertiveness, or removing yourself from toxic situations when possible.
Can you give some examples of setting boundaries?
Sure. Setting boundaries could involve things like limiting your interactions with the bully, refusing to engage in gossip or negativity, or being clear about your expectations for communication. It's about defining what behavior you're willing to tolerate and communicating that clearly.
That makes a lot of sense. And what about practicing assertiveness? What does that look like when we're talking about workplace bullying?
Assertiveness is about communicating your needs and boundaries clearly and confidently while still respecting the other person. It's about standing up for yourself without being aggressive. So, for example, if someone repeatedly interrupts you in meetings, you might say, "Please allow me to finish my thought."
It's about finding that balance between being respectful but also firm.
Right.
Those are great tips for dealing with the situation directly. But what about taking care of yourself amidst all of this?
Self-care is essential. When you're dealing with a stressful situation like workplace bullying, it's more important than ever to prioritize your physical and emotional well-being.
It's not selfish. It's an act of self-preservation.
Exactly.
So what are some self-care practices that you recommend?
Well, self-care looks different for everyone. But some helpful practices include things like exercise meditation, spending time in nature, engaging in hobbies that bring you joy. It's about finding those activities that help you de-stress, recharge, and reconnect with yourself.
Those are all fantastic strategies for building resilience. But I think it's also important to acknowledge that sometimes even with all the self-care in the world, things can still feel overwhelming.
You're absolutely right. And in those cases, seeking professional help is not a sign of weakness, but a sign of strength. Talking to a therapist or counselor can provide a safe space to process your emotions, develop coping mechanisms, and regain a sense of control.
It's about having that extra support when you need it most. Are there any specific types of therapy that you think might be helpful in these situations?
Cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, can be really effective for addressing negative thought patterns and developing coping strategies for dealing with difficult situations. There's also trauma-informed therapy, which recognizes the impact of traumatic experiences on mental and emotional well-being.
And if someone's looking for a therapist, where's a good place to start?
There are many resources available online, including directories of therapists who specialize in workplace issues or trauma. You can also ask for referrals from your primary care doctor or reach out to professional organizations like the American Psychological Association.
It's so important to remember that you are not alone and that there is help available. If you're going through something similar, it's not your fault, and you deserve to be treated with respect.
Maria's story is a testament to that. Despite the challenges she faced, she found the strength to speak up, take action, and ultimately create a more positive and respectful work environment for herself and others.
And you can too. Remember, even small steps can make a difference.
Absolutely. The first step towards positive change is often simply acknowledging that something is wrong and that you deserve better.
And then finding the courage to take that next step, whether it's setting a boundary, seeking support, or advocating for change within your organization.
We hope this deep dive has empowered you with knowledge strategies and, most importantly, a sense of hope.
It's been quite a journey exploring this complex and often uncomfortable topic. If there's one thing we want you to take away from this deep dive, it's this: you have the right to a safe and respectful workplace, and you have the power to make a difference.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive.
And remember, you're not alone. Take care.